Broadcasting from the Unshackled studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront. Brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this weekly edition of WilmsFront for this Wednesday, the 2nd of December, 2020. I know, I can't believe, or we all can't believe that it's already December and Christmas is just over 3 weeks away. And I know that a lot of people are looking forward to the end of 2020, but we shouldn't hold our breaths or count on 2021 being any better at this stage. We are live on the WilmsFront YouTube and DLive channels. There is no entropy tonight because I'm not sure what's happened. There's been some sort of error with it. I haven't been able to log on to it, but never mind. Now it is 8 p.m. here in Melbourne, so starting a little later tonight. Thank you for everyone for being patient and coming to tune in a bit later. So I'll start with the good news that Australia is close to being one nation again, with state borders continuing to reopen. As a Victorian, most of the state border closures that were caused by this state's second wave of coronavirus. But as of today, I can freely travel into New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, Northern Territory, Tasmania, the ACT, and you can add Western Australia to that list from next Tuesday. Australia has virtually eliminated the coronavirus now in all states and territories, with the only active cases nationwide all being in quarantine. South Australia has been able to contain its hotel quarantine outbreak, which spilled out into the community mid-November, which resulted in Premier Stephen Marshall deciding to shut down the whole state for 3 days, which we covered here on WilmsFront, which was an extreme overreaction. They have still got significant restrictions there, and Victoria, of all states, still has a hard border with South Australia, as does Western Australia. They have no plans at this stage to relax their hard border with South Australia. The question now turns to how to get 36,000 Australians who wish to come home to Australia here by Christmas. So Victoria and South Australia will restart their hotel quarantine programs from next Monday. Premier Dan Andrews stated as a press conference on Monday that he was establishing a dedicated agency, COVID Quarantine Victoria, which will handle the reworked version of hotel quarantine in Victoria, which, of course, the dysfunctional version, first incarnation, run by private security, was how Victoria experienced its second wave, which 801 now Victorians died with COVID during the second wave. Over 20,000 Victorians were infected with COVID and led to the shutdown of the state for 4 months, with varying degrees of house arrest during that time. Now we'll move on to the bad news, which is communist China, where the coronavirus was born in Wuhan almost 1 year ago exactly, as again power posturing to Australia. Last week, they announced that they were imposing new tariffs on Australian wine. They are also still preventing 82 ships of Australian coal docking in China. This week, they've also started to engage in what I call shitpost diplomacy, with the deputy director of the Chinese foreign ministry, Zhao Lijian, posting a fake image of an Australian soldier beheading a Afghani child, this is what he posted here. So it's quite a graphic photoshopped image. He said, "Shocked by murder of Afghan civilians and prisoners by Australian soldiers, we strongly condemn such acts and call for holding them accountable." Of course, he was referencing their and also trying to inflame further the domestic division caused by the findings of the Brereton report into alleged war crimes committed by 19 SAS soldiers during Australia's involvement in the war in Afghanistan. An update on the fallout from the Brereton report is that Scott Morrison has decided he will overrule the request of the Chief of the Defence Force, Angus Campbell, and will not strip 3,000 Afghan war veterans of their meritorious citations, which, as the overwhelming mass majority of those, given that there are only 19 with allegations against them, have done nothing wrong and served honorably. And the fact that they were going to strip medals from deceased soldiers and insult their families was quite disgraceful. Scott Morrison's response to that doctored image by the Chinese was to call it truly offensive and repugnant, and that the Chinese government should be totally ashamed of this post. It diminishes them in the world's eyes. It is also absolutely outrageous and disgusting slur. Australia is seeking an apology from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we're seeking it to be removed from Twitter. While Twitter has not removed it as of this date, and they haven't even put like a disclaimer in front of it to say that the image is doctored. Remember, this is what they did with one of Trump's Twitter videos with the two babies chasing after each other. Twitter decided to put a fact check over that, but not this image that was doctored and posted by a Chinese Foreign Ministry Deputy Director. China, of course, will not apologize and probably enjoy the triggered response of Scott Morrison. The author of this fake photo, who is known as Wang Gelin, has since released another doctored photo featuring our ADF, but this time also included Morrison in it here. So there it is there. Morrison, there's all there, the ADF in the battlefield there with, I think it's supposed to be an Australian flag covering the dead, and he's pointing to all the photographers looking at this Chinese artist. Well, I don't think he should be called an artist, just more of a shitposter troll memer is, I think, the appropriate terminology for him. Now, I'm of the opinion that Australia should have responded with a shitpost of their own about China's extensive list of human rights abuses by the Chinese Communist Party throughout its 71 years of existence. One that I did see had an Australian soldier beheading Xi Jinping. But I know that some of Australia's satire websites have also hinted that we should respond with shitposting. So this is the Batuta Advocate, which says 1 million Uyghurs in detention camps praise China's humanitarian stance on war crimes. Of course, the irony there that China's calling out the Australia for war crimes committed by alleged to have been committed by only 19 SAS soldiers, which is a tiny portion of Australia's defence force, yet they're keeping over 1 million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps, and they're apparently concerned about some rogue soldiers in our defence force. And then there was also the Chaser with Morrison fires back at China with spicy distracted boyfriend meme. And Scott Morrison is supposed to have tweeted suck on this you simps, and it has Chinese government looking at 27 Australians violating human rights, and then the girlfriend looking at him disgusted 1 million people in detention camps. And of course, well, that's just the most obvious current human rights abuse by the Chinese Communist government. Of course, we could go all through back throughout their recent history with Falun Gong, the Tiananmen Square massacre. I mean, their aggression in the South China Sea with the slaughter of the Vietnamese back in 1988. I know that Chris Smith, Sky News host, last night did a monologue about all their various human rights abuses that Communist China has committed over the years, and he ended up triggering the Chinese propaganda ad at the Global Times, because remember they're mocking Scott Morrison for being triggered. This is the Chinese Communist government as the ultimate snowflake regime. They can't stand to be criticized in any form and have to respond quite aggressively. Despite the Chinese apologists in Australia, plus those who take the position of every other nation's side except for their own, have said this deteriorating state of Australian-Chinese relations is all the Morrison government's fault, that we should just shut up and resume trading with China and everything will be sweet again. But we should also remember we're not the only nation that China has been having deteriorating relations with. And so in response to China slapping tariffs on Australian wine, there is now a new push from other nations to buy and enjoy Australian wine to show solidarity with Australia. I'm just going to play this video released by the Interparliamentary Alliance on China.
After a hard day's work, nothing beats a glass of New Zealand.
Riesling is the final word in refreshing wine.
I'm afraid that accolade clearly belongs to
Scusate, ma devo correggervi perché l'Italia importa più vino di qualunque altro paese nel mondo.
2 words. Napa Valley. Napa
Come
Valley.
on. Who need wine when you have aquavit?
日本酒が最高です。
But next month, we're drinking something a little bit because our friends need our help.
Earlier this month, the Chinese government handed the Australian government a list of 14 grievances demanding that Australia stop voicing human rights and the rules-based order. China has cancelled a whole range of Australian in an attempt to bully us into abandoning our values. One of the worst affected industries is the Australian wine industry. This isn't just an attack on Australia. It's an attack on free countries.
So this December we are asking you all to join us in standing against Xinjiang's authoritarian bullying.
By drinking a bottle of Australian wine, letting the Chinese Communist Party know will not be bullied.
Cheers, and also say no bullying from China.
That's a fine Australian wine.
Now, the Australian voice you heard in that video was Labor Federal Senator Kimberley Kitching, and she is from Victoria, which obviously she is given that Dan Andrews has also said today that he won't tear up his memorandum of understanding with the Chinese government to be part of their globalist infrastructure program, the One Belt, One Road initiative. She is quite in the minority of the Victorian Labor Party in opposing Chinese communist aggression and bullying. And a tweet from the US National Security Council, which Donald Trump is still the president of the United States, and so obviously chairs the National Security Council. Joe Biden is not president-elect because the Electoral College hasn't met yet to decide who will be the president for the next 4 years. The National Security Council tweeted, Australian wine will be featured at a White House holiday reception this week. Pity vino lovers in China who, due to Beijing's coercive tariffs on Australian vintners, will miss out. And obviously, I don't need to tell our local audience that Australian wine is bloody good. I'm a white wine drinker myself, and I think we definitely make the best white wine in the world. Whenever you go into a liquor shop in Australia, whether it be a bottle-o or a liquor warehouse, there's plenty of different Australian wines to choose from. And you always get they're always very knowledgeable. The liquor store assistants, they know know about all the different wines, where they come from, and so there's no excuse for not trying out an Australian wine this December. Now, as I mentioned on last week's show, I visited New South Wales on the weekend, so I was free of all of Dan Andrews' coronavirus decrees. So there are no cultural masks in New South Wales. I thoroughly enjoyed my great escape for the weekend, even though I'm back broadcasting here in Melbourne, Victoria now. One of the many escapees I was there with was Hillbilly from the Proud of Your Hunter YouTube channel, which is a... well, you wouldn't say a Proud Boy affiliated channel, but a Proud Boy supported channel. The Proud of Your Hunter is a play on the one of the Proud Boy slogans, Proud of Your Boy. So I caught up with him earlier this evening to discuss just how much COVID has changed the culture of Australia. And we are still living with diminished freedoms, and it's even changed the culture between our states. So I'll just play that all for you now.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Hillbilly, welcome to WilmsFront.
Thank you for having me.
So we had, both you and I, along with many others, the Great Escape on the weekend, because November 29th to 30th, because the Victoria-New South Wales border opened on the 23rd, and now as we're going to air, we've got the Northern Territory, Tasmanian, Queensland, and even South Australia border open, though Victoria has still got the hard border with South Australia due to their outbreak, which I think is basically a spiteful border, given they locked us out for so long because we were supposedly in Victoria.
There's a lot of spite between the two states. There's a lot of spite between South Australia and Victoria. There's been a long feud since the F1, obviously. But it was surreal, wasn't it? Walking through those towns and just not seeing anyone with masks and stuff in New South Wales, and it was just sort of business as usual. It's crazy, you know. We were just so freaking desensitized from all these freaking masks and rules and obligations and regulations coming from here to our zoo. It just, you know what I mean? It was just a good eye opener to have a bit of 2019 reality back.
Yeah, exactly. Because you'll remember that because Dan did another easing of restrictions before the New South Wales border opened, where you can now legally ditch your mask outside if you can maintain social distancing, but you still have to wear them in the supermarket, or even if you're going to go into the servo so you can fill up your car with petrol without a mask on because that's outdoors, but if you go in to pay, then you have to put it on.
So I had the similar problem down at the pub. Pub in Warragul, I won't mention the name obviously, but went to this pub in Warragul. There's no one sitting in there. There's no bookings. It's completely empty. It's just full of staff running around. I go in, no mask, and the guy says, eyes opened up, you know, the sign snapped back up and said, "Where's your mask, mate? What's going on? You need to have a mask. You can't come in here without a mask." I say, "Look, I've got an exemption. I've got asthma. I was wearing a mask. I used to work in a hospital, and I was continuously getting these freaking bacterial infections. I understand, you know, the applications of the mask, but I don't believe I need one to order a beer." And he said, "Well, no, it's house rules. You need a mask just to order a beer from
so they had house rules.
From the
not Dan's
these are
rules,
house rules. Okay?
Oh.
No, house rules. House rules. And obviously it's private property, so I'm not going to fucking cause a ruckus. I'm not a doofhead. So I went there and, house rules. Just to frickin' order a drink from the bar and take it back to your table in that 2-second frickin' interaction. What's the frickin' point? You know what I mean? I know the reason why they frickin' made it mandatory is because they bought too fucking many. They went nuts. There was warehouses full of them, you know? So they got to get rid of them somehow. Otherwise they'd go all expired and then... Yeah. And the other thing is where is all these masks coming from? They're not coming from the factories in Shepparton that frickin' jumped up and down at the start of the pandemic, all the textile factories saying, we'll make them, we'll fucking go nuts, we'll go the factories 24/7, we just need government support. You know what I mean? None of that happened. But Victoria decided to buy all their masks exclusively from fucking China, and they're crap masks. You know what I mean? The unions, the health worker unions and all the other places are fucking jumping up and down because they're not up to standard. You know, there's no indication about what standard they are, or, you know, they just make up all these fucking terms. Like they call it a P2+4 mask or some shit. You know what I mean? Like they just, the corruption is fucking insane in Victoria, you know, with foreign entities. It's just disgusting.
Dan, he finally condemned the, we shouldn't say doctored photo, but fake fictional photo that Chinese foreign ministry published of a Australian soldier slitting the throat of an Afghan boy. But he still said that we still need to heal the relationship because it's good for our economy. But that's pretty much the strongest that I've ever heard Dan being against China.
Well, he's just doing it because he's got to try and muster some of his communist countrymen that he thinks, you know, the patriotic communists, you know, those patriotic socialists, the Nazis, that he's fucking got in his back pocket.
Stalin was a you could say, national socialist as well, or more like national communist, because Lenin wanted globalist communism, but Stalin changed it to socialism in one country, which is why initially Stalin and Hitler signed the Non-Aggression Pact in 1939, which we all know how that.
Well, I mean, the ideologies were pretty much the same. They were both trying to do something for their country, but in the communist, selfish, dictatorial way, which never fucking works. But now, you said before, what was the first bit of that question you just said with the Afghani boy with the throat getting slit, right? So that Sky News guy, Rowan, he freaking he unpacked it a little bit. He said it's in Sun Tzu's Art of War to attack the enemies, the top level military of your enemy. You attack them with fucking morale attacks and fucking, you know, psychological attacks. You know what I mean? You try and demoralize the leadership as much as possible. And how convenient was all this SAS stuff? It just manifested now after, you know, X amount of years of this supposedly fucking being happening. At the end of the day, they're fucking soldiers. We didn't ask them to go. We told them to go there, and they were fighting a fucking war of standard
at the
death.
time. How government in 2001 told them to go there.
Tim, at that time, everyone was still off the tail end of fucking TV amnesia. You know what I mean? Mainstream media amnesia. So everyone was just going with the flow. Oh shit, we got attacked. Fuck, just kill him. You know what I mean? Fucking preemptive strike. Go nuts. And that's just, you know, Bush got in and Howard, and they mustered up all this fucking angst and all this stuff. But you know, it's just so blatantly corrupt. What the fuck's going on? You know, if people look through what their true intentions are and what fucking goes on, we should be sending our soldiers to fuck. Who gives a fuck about the fucking, like, it has good elements of history and this, that, and the other, but their culture is fucked. You know what I mean? They have a really fucked up culture.
I can't say I've I've travelled that extensively. Well, I can't at the moment because we're all still banned from exiting Australia. That we can.
But April apparently this hasn't stopped them selling tickets. They're all back open in April. So.
Well, don't count on it, because one thing that governments throughout this pandemic in Australia, they certainly haven't given people certainty. Mark McGowan, he said, even though he said that they're reopening the controlled border, as he calls it now, with Victoria and New South Wales. If there's an outbreak, we'll reinstitute the hard border. So, well, a fat lot of certainty that gives people. And he said to Western Australians, if you get caught away from Western Australia when there's an outbreak, you'll have a hard time getting back. Which is, of course, he sounds like a dick when he says that.
Glomaniac, fucking dictatorial piece of shit. But with the air travel, it's going to be crazy. I was talking to some of the boys today, and I'm just like, I had all this angst. I'm a bit of a jipper. I don't like to stay in one fucking spot for too long, right? So I've always travelled fucking ages, and I had this long spell where I didn't travel for a very long time, and fucking now I miss it more than ever because they're telling me that I can't do it.
Well, that's why I want.
You know what I mean? And then I'm scared.
I've got the travel bug more than ever now, because I'm told that I can't do it, which is why going to New South Wales was so great on the weekend. And to bring it back to where we originally started with it was interesting. Wodonga, even though it was 40 degrees that day, as people were going into the supermarket, still got the masks on, but Albury, none of that. And remember,
guns out.
Yeah.
It's just...
And remember, Dan, he said he wanted to check with the chief health officer if the rules would follow us when we went interstate, which of course he has no jurisdiction over outside of Victoria. And it reminded me of this meme. I'm not sure if you've seen it, where it's like, why won't Victorians wear their cultural mask? Because we've pissed off to New South Wales, dickhead.
I haven't seen that. I've seen a lot of SA ones, but I haven't seen that one. Bloody
well, South Australia, there.
I'm scared of. I'm scared of what the new normal is. You know what I mean? What is normal? What's normal to you and me, Tim, is very different. To my neighbour, is very different over here. You know, it's just like, what's this fucking new normal shit? And you know what I was saying to Rhino the other day was, just this morning was the small businesses they think they're going to get rid of with all these fucking regulations and masks and this and that, line up appointments. Everything's fucking hard to do now. But they're going to create a black market. All these small businesses, if you go, to just a regular small mum and pop sort of Joe and Joanne sort of business, they don't give a shit. They quickly serve you, they get everything. And that's what's going to happen is there's going to be a divide between you go to the big shop and get backed around with lines, appointments, wear masks, rules, kicks in the teeth. You can just go to the shop next smaller and just go and get what you want and have a nice, pleasant conversation and everything's hunky-dory. Because at the end of the day, they've got to understand Australians are very relaxed, casual people. So our accent even reflects that. This is the most relaxed way to pronounce and the most slowest way to pronounce English. Also
that attitude has also, as we've seen this year, led to a lot of passiveness and this year, which has led to acceptance. Well, if the government tells me to wear this mask all the time, well, that's what I should do. I mean, there's hardly been any substantive revolts against the lockdowns that we've had in Australia, not like we saw in the US and Europe.
I think compared to France. Well, France, I mean, they go nuts.
They protest everything. Well, when I say protest, it's a riot. When they've just got this minor change.
They force reparations in their minds.
But yes, we still had the COVID normal in New South Wales. You still have to, what is it? They've got the mandatory QR codes now, which that's still a pain when you go. You can't just go into a pub to sit down in New South Wales and have a drink, or dare I say, stand and have a drink in New South Wales as well. You got to check in, and you have to be seated to have a drink or a meal. It's still not normal.
Like, with that mindset that I had before, if you couldn't go drink in the pub, what's the average Aussie going to do? I'll just go to the bottle shop and drink in the park next to it. And you know what I mean? And then what's that going to do? Oh, I got too pissed because I was upset because of it. And then the cops are going to, you know what I mean? It's just going to be this perpetual bullshit where these people used to be able to pile into pubs, as is our culture. And what do you get from a pub? You get good mental health. You get freaking, your mates are there. You get good experiences. You learn stuff. It's just a meeting place. So what they're trying to do is make all these fucking as fuck and dumb as fuck to change all the laws, isn't it? That's blatantly what they're doing. Keep people busy with all this crap, demoralize the crap out of them, and then ScoMo comes in with 2020. Oh, I just have to change this law here, sir. I've got to have this power now. I want that. I'll have this, and I'll take a couple of those.
Well, it seems to me that because it's, as my guest last week, Tricky Tritty, said to me, sort of the lockdowns, the restrictions, surveillance, and especially the second lockdown that we all suffered through. It's like a PSYOP operation where people just accept the various vaccines that are in production as a way to go back to normal. And that's what Stan Andrews has said. There's no normal without a vaccine. There's just COVID normal. And so we've always got to have some restrictions. And
that's what I do believe yourself and me and everyone else that's freaking jumping up and down is worried about. Is these fucking bastards will just become oligarchs, with no fucking repercussions, with no one to watch them, with no one to be witness, It's crazy. I don't know why there's not enough people joking about it. That's my dig at the moment, is people just seem complacent. They're so pushy. They're just, I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. This poster was put out by the Melbourne Freedom Rally Telegram group, which said no COVID normal because masks aren't normal, coercive vaccines aren't normal, dissident suppression isn't normal, medical surveillance isn't normal, social distancing isn't normal, Dan's dictatorship isn't normal. There's nothing normal about COVID normal.
It's pretty good. It's very well written. What do you think about it?
Yeah, because this is, as I've been saying to my own audience, COVID normal still has the surveillance with the QR codes and the social distancing as well. The dots when you go into the supermarkets, they're still everywhere that you go. You still can't shake hands. You have to do the elbow thing.
That's one thing. The non-shaking of the hands is disgusting. You know what I mean? You know what the whole to shake hands is just to show that you're unarmed. You know what I mean? It's such a simple, pleasant gesture that the West has freaking strived to have for so many fucking hundreds of years. And to say that you can't fucking shake hands is just fucking insane. Like, I understand their like technocratical science that they want to push on people, but they have to understand their facts can still be prejudged and overturned. You don't have the fucking absolute knowledge. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of science. You keep questioning. You keep trying to find what the truth is. Keep double guessing and testing and continuously stress testing everything, every little fact that you've sort of made. But they've lost that. They find one little easy keyhole of fact, and then they just latch onto it like a leech on your leg. You know what I mean?
Now, Dan's making another announcement this Sunday about the step towards, it used to be COVID normal, but if you have a look at he keeps changing the roadmap. It's now called a COVID safe summer. So he's promised that public gathering limits will increase, so will visitors to the home. It says face mask subject to public health advice, but as was posted on Facebook by one of my previous guests, Nathan Kyle, that Dan promised us in his COVID normal that there'd be no restrictions on public gatherings, home visitors, weddings, funerals, religious gatherings, office workers and hospitality. But as it stands at the moment, there's a cap of 50 on public gatherings, home visits, cap of 15, mask recommended inside.
The religion's disgusting. You shouldn't fucking put any caps on anyone congregating for any faith thing.
It's 150 inside, right, with a mask, 300 outside. Weddings is just filthy. Like, how are you supposed to have an inside wedding with a mask on?
First of all, weddings are cultural, right? You know, you might get away with a small country Aussie wedding, about 150, or maybe there's 10 of them. You never know, right? But they're sort of random. But your Punjabi Pindwala fucking weddings, or your Chinese Shanghai deluxe super fucking mega weddings. What about your Arabs? You know what I mean? What about your traditional Irish Catholics? Like,
it permeates across all cultures that you want a bigger wedding, most extravagant as possible. Yeah. Remember, that's what all the bridezillas always want, that perfect, epic wedding day.
Yeah.
Well, they announced today in New South Wales that they're going to have another easing on December the 7th, which is when our step to COVID safe summer will happen. So they're going to have a 2 square meter rule inside hospitality venues and places of worship, except for gyms and nightclubs, which will be 1 person per 4 square meter. Maximum of 50 people in gym classes, but they're going to be allowing 50 people on the dance floor at nightclubs now, stadiums and theatres. So basically at Stadium Australia, 100% seated capacity, and also at the SCG as well. Indoors, 75%, so that's at like theatres. Public gatherings increased to 100, up from 50. 5,000 for outdoor events that are fenced, ticketed and seated, which basically means, have you seen those outdoor events which are fenced? You're like cattle. You get your own pen, mate, at an outdoor event.
Did you see the ones in, like, what is it, fucking, I don't know if it was Sacramento or London, or it was something crazy, and like fucking sheep. Have you seen that one? And there's a meme like freaking, oh, look at the sheeple. And they're all literally in these little pens with fucking on bench seats, just like slobbering down hot dogs and sculling soft drink and stuff. I was just like, fucking hell. What, isn't that just, like, the whole nicety of life is getting fucking destroyed. You know what I mean? Like, enjoying the daily things of the chores of your day, it's getting all wiped out. So, you know, imagine if you can't even have a picnic anymore. You can't just take some old, bit of cheese, a bit of bread.
Oh, well, you can now.
Go out, and you can now, but imagine if they start fucking penning off. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
I just don't know when's the end of it. When are they going to securely say, like, it's a virus, we can't fight it. We just have to cope and protect the people that are the most vulnerable, and that's it.
At St Kilda Beach, they've had remember the social distancing circle. So if you're going to have a picnic there, you have it within the social distancing circle. So the groundskeepers, at the community sport where the groundskeeper puts the white paint on the footy oval or the soccer oval. They've got a new job now doing the social distancing circles at parks and foreshores.
COVID marshals.
Oh yes, what is that? Yeah, the
COVID marshals.
The
A
fake
marshal.
police officers.
The fucking secret police. You know what I mean? Busybodies. Where's your mask? Where's your papers? What do you got? Have you been to China in the past fucking 14 days? No. You know, what have you been doing the last 14 days? You know what I mean? It's just going to get bloody
so for
too invasive. And that's not what democracy is. It's not what...
For non-ticketed outdoor events, i.e. community sport and outdoor protests, there's a 3,000 person limit, and it has the 2 square meter rule. Well, so freedom of a political speech
then how
and
big is the
assembly.
venue got to be? But how big is where are these venues going to come from? They're just going to have them in parks, like 3,000 people spread 2 meters apart. Like you couldn't have that in Rod Laver, or like what's going to happen to Rod Laver? Just dock it down.
Oh well, Rod Laver is a fenced ticketed event, so it's different. They're talking about community sport where it's not
music
ticketed, and obviously outdoor protests are not ticketed.
Why would the that's just targeted at bloody rural areas. That's fucking shit. Because I mean, that's just sporting events that are out here. People wake up. All right, it's a virus. Yes, it may kill you, but there's a lot of other fucking things that are going to kill you. There's no point in being
hit
so
by a
fucking
bus.
scared and giddy. I know you're more likely to fucking like get hit by your neighbour reversing out of his fucking yard. You know what I mean? People kill people.
Yeah.
All right? Not.
Yeah. I've always made the joke when I've been close to having a nasty accident and said to others, well, imagine if I injured myself with this when we've got a pandemic on. Because remember, people only seem to, well, our leaders especially are fixated just on COVID related illnesses. They haven't given much thought to others.
The great excuse, Tim. The great excuse. That's what it will be known as. The big excuse. You know what I mean? Everyone's scapegoat is fucking COVID. Oh mate, can I change my telephone connection? Nah, COVID. Can I pay me bill? Nah, COVID. You know what I mean? It's just everything. Everyone's using this as such a quick way to fucking get out of work, cause more work. I think it's caused more work and given people employment and ways to fucking ponder their time than, you know, most things. It's fucking just made all this extra layer of fucking virus tape. We had red tape, the communist shit, green tape from the fucking idiots, and now we've got virus tape. You know, purple tape. Call it purple
did
tape.
Did you know that even though we've been COVID free in Victoria for over a month now, as of today, it's 33 days without a new coronavirus case. We've got no active cases in the state. On Monday, we had a new coronavirus death. A lady who, in her 70s, I think, I'm not actually sure if it was a lady. I don't think a gender was specified. Died from the coronavirus, even though recovered back in September, or as they said, cleared as an active case, and said it was from complications arising from their coronavirus infection. It was a COVID-related death. Obviously, our sympathy with that person who died, but they.
Yeah, God bless them.
Yeah, they're a person who most likely died with COVID, not of COVID, and so that's why they said COVID related.
Yeah. Now, Tim, I'm sorry, man, but as you know, I didn't have much time, so now we hit the 30-minute mark. I got to go, man.
Well,
I've got to go get me my tattoo. I've got a tattoo planned on this arm. So,
well, thanks for stopping by. It was good to reflect on our, well, even though it was temporary, great escape. But it is good that we're going to have a somewhat of a old normal summer, and certainly the heat up there. On the border community is around about 40 degrees, which is that's not due to climate change. It's always bloody hot up there.
It used to get so hot in Adelaide, the fucking bins would melt.
You
know, it was insane. There'd be like they used to have these ashtray bins like on light posts and stuff, and just at traffic lights and things like that. And the council would never clean them. So, like, they'd have a good year's worth of winter people shoving fucking cigarette butts in there. And then by summer's end, they've all, like, gotten dry and manky in there. Someone puts one fresh butt in there. It explodes. And friggin' it goes on fire, and the stench, you can smell them from the streets of Adelaide, burnt cigarette smell everywhere. But anyway, Tim, proud of you, boy.
I'll catch you later.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
And I hope you enjoyed my discussion there with Hillbilly there. I've got to be able to... This is my first time playing a interview that I recorded in this new software on this new software itself. So I think I've managed logistically quite well. Now, if you want to see more of Hillbilly's videos on the Proud of Your Hunter channel, I'll just put it here. This is so you just type in pretty much Proud of Your Hunter channel into YouTube. And as you can see, he's already got an extensive back catalogue of videos. It's a growing channel, 127 subscribers. So a lot of them, as you'd expect, are hunting videos, but there is also a construction and maintenance videos, and also his report from the Melbourne Freedom Day protest on Melbourne Cup Day. You'll remember that November the 3rd, that was outside Victoria's Parliament House on Spring Street. At that time, we were still living under both a state of emergency and state of disaster. Victoria is still just under a state of emergency, but the state of disaster has been removed. This is when all of the Victoria Police, what's known as kettled, surrounded all the protesters and then picked them off one by one to take them away for processing, and issued them all with 1,652 infringement notices. And because it was a warm day that day, a lot of them were thirsty there, trapped for hours and that. And so police gave them water with paper cups from a bucket from a local pub, which doesn't seem very COVID safe. And and it was quite degrading that a lot of the protesters were treated that way. Now, the next round of nationwide Freedom Day protests are happening this Sunday on the 6th of December. I'll bring up the locations here. So there's one in Melbourne, Sydney, Cairns, Canberra, Adelaide, Perth, Hobart, Brisbane, and Townsville. So their various guest speakers have been announced. Fanos Peniidis is speaking at the Sydney protest. Also, Romeo Georges is. And up in Brisbane, Ricardo Bossi is speaking up there, even though he's a Sydney sider, is taking advantage of being able to travel freely between New South Wales and Queensland now. Now, the Melbourne Freedom Day stand in the park, which is at Faulkner Park. That's near CSL Broadmeadows. Now, CSL up at their Broadmeadows plant is manufacturing the Oxford University COVID vaccine, even though it hasn't passed the final hurdles yet. There is still scientific doubt about its effectiveness, because at first they thought it was 90% effective, but now it's only 70% effective. Though if you get another dose in a month, that's 90% effective. Moderna, which is one of the US-made vaccines, that's applied for emergency approval with the United States FDA, Food and Drug Administration, which they're hoping the first jabs will be issued by December. And it just broke now that the Pfizer vaccine has been approved by the UK's regulatory body there. So it's obviously now they're deciding who will get the jab first, but our federal health minister, Greg Hunt, has signaled March is when it will be mass distributed and administered. Our federal government has locked in 4 vaccines. So you'll get your choice of the as mandatory as possible vaccines. Now, I know that a lot of, well, they've always been criticized, the freedom protesters, but now the criticism being leveled at the Freedom Day protesters is like, why are you protesting when lockdown is over? Well, if you saw my discussion with Hillbilly there, the full house arrest may have been lifted, but there are still significant restrictions on our abilities to freely gather, whether in private, public, or in a protest. And of course, there is the constant medical surveillance with the QR code tracking system for contact tracing purposes. So yes, there is still not much freedom, and the mandatory as possible vaccines, even though they'll be technically voluntary, there'll still be a lot of coercive pressure on people to take them, particularly if they want to travel internationally, as we saw Qantas CEO Alan Joyce said at the start of last week about changing Qantas terms and conditions to that where they would have a digital vaccination pass. Now, since restrictions have lifted now, the various new members of the New Freedom Movement have been gathering for just social catch-up to get to know each other in person rather than just online. And they had a get together at Elwood Beach on the weekend, and this is some brief footage posted on Nathan Kyles, who I've had on this show before, who I mentioned on the show. This was his highlighted video from the day. Now, Elwood Beach has been the location for a few of these freedom events. Obviously, there's a lot of freedom lovers in the Elwood area, and it was a scorching weekend in Melbourne, and where we were, me and Hillbilly, at the New South Wales Victoria border. Now, it's approaching also the 1-year anniversary of the Black Summer bushfires, when they started to really cause significant damage. There was a high fire danger warning for the regions that we were in last Saturday. There were a few mild bushfires, but most of them was suspected to be deliberately lit, which was the case with a lot of the Black Summer bushfires last summer. But so far, so good. We've had a relatively bushfire-free summer, as we're approaching somewhat resembling the old normal. So let's hope we can keep it that way, given that there was so much fuel loads that accumulated last summer. that has now been burnt, and you'd hope that governments and other various authorities have learnt a lesson from last summer. Let's hope that this summer is largely free of those devastating bushfires, and we can thoroughly enjoy the warm weather without coronavirus and without bushfires as well. Because you remember that Sydney and Melbourne, because of the bushfires, had smog throughout all the city, and of course that was Australia was showcased as the climate apocalypse was happening, which it wasn't. The bushfires were bad, but the vast majority of Australians were able to continue their summer as normal, which we weren't allowed to do during the coronavirus pandemic. So as I said, it'd be refreshing if we can just have a bit of a break from every type of craziness that we've had to put up with in 2019-20. Federal Treasurer Josh Frydenberg today, he shared the quarterly economic growth figures that showed that the Australian economy had bounced back during the September quarter, amazingly, with the economy expanding by 3.3%. Josh Frydenberg, I'm surprised he didn't say it, but his most common expression is that the Australian economy is very resilient. That's his favorite term to describe the Australian economy. And this fled up in question time today, because the government's spruiking of Australia's economic comeback. Apparently, they've to come up with the slogan. They paid a $15 million to an advertising agency to put on bus shelters and billboards. This was by Labor backbench MP Julian Hill. He's the member for Bruce, which takes in Dandenong and Keysborough. I wonder where he was during Victoria's lockdown or Melbourne's lockdown. We didn't hear much from him, just fell into line with Dan most likely. But yeah, this is the website, ourcomeback.gov.au, that the Australian government has launched, which they've got here, the plan for everyone, individuals and households. As you can see, it's a nice glossy look at all those happy people out, ethnically diverse there. Now, it is true that Australia hasn't done as bad as the Northern Hemisphere nations during the coronavirus pandemic and associated lockdowns. GDP in the United States and United Kingdom contracted by more than 10%. But as I and other economists keep saying, the real crash is still yet to come, because there are so many businesses that will never recover. And there are still a lot of economic aftershocks to go. That's it from me tonight. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Apologies it was a little bit later. And good news is tomorrow night the Unshackled will be back after a week off. Definitely will be back. So myself and David Hiscott will return, along with Jared Seeby, Nick Patterson and Stephen Wells. There's a lot to discuss there. And then, of course, Trad Tasman talk, 6 p.m. Melbourne time on the Unshackled YouTube channel. Remember, the Unshackled is on its own dedicated YouTube and D-Live, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time. Still plenty of Unshackled productions before our summer hiatus. Will end just before Christmas, all our Unshackled productions, and begin just before Australia Day, because after being bunkered down for lockdown, myself and the Unshackled team want to thoroughly enjoy the summer and enjoy some of our regained freedoms, which I'm sure the rest of you will want to as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow night for the Unshackled.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com or Rational Rise TV to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting Unshackled.net to view all our shows, and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.